What's up, guys? Nate Petrosky from Narrowway Homestead. I'm here to show you guys a power station, actually two of them, by MangoPower. This thing is really cool, and I've never actually had my hands on any of these units that will combine multiple fully functional power stations together, but that is what this does, and I'm going to do a quick unboxing. We'll get into some tech specs, and then we'll try out some real-world scenarios. All right, Minion, what do you think? We got it unboxed, we got our cables over there. Now, before we read instruction manuals and stuff, because one of my favorite things I do is to investigate something without a manual. And then if I need the manual, we'll go from there. Minion, it's coming up. So right off the top, we've got a 30 amp out. We've got 4 20 amp receptacles, true 20 amp, which is nice. We got the car outlet. We got some 100 watt USB or 100 watt USB-C. 65 watt, got just outputs for 12 volt, that could come in handy. And we have a whole bunch of USB ports. This side, got nothing. It's got a really nice and tall handle. Got solar input of 2000 watts, grid AC input 3000, port. We've got something called an E+ port, which may be a battery expansion. That's really cool. Awesome. And we've got two of them because we are able to connect them together. These power stations do 120 volts. However, together they can be synced. I'm assuming this data cable right here will actually make them a true split phase and give us the proper 220 needed to run electric dryers and all sorts of things like that. MangoPower is also the first company that I've seen have an actual touchscreen for all this, which is pretty cool. And there is going to be an app. That is really handy though, just to be able to change all these settings without having to use the app. It should be obvious, but these are designed for home backup. They're not to take with you on a weekend getaway, although you could, because they are 100 pounds. It is possible to carry them with two people. Generally speaking, what they are designed for is to back up your house, particularly probably items that are most important. You might not care if your TV has a lot of power or not. I mean, maybe Minion does, but things like your internet, your refrigerators, your freezers, things that would really matter if you had a power outage while you were away or at home or during some kind of natural disaster. But these put out 3,000 watts a piece. Their capacity is 3,500 watt hours. And again, that is a piece. Tying these two together, which I will be able to do with this, would bring it to right around 7,000 watt hours. What I'm gonna do now is get the app installed so I can control it off of a phone and get these charged up. I'll use the standard charging from the wall outlet, plugged right into the side. Minion and I'll be right back after we get them charged and the app installed. And just like that, we're back. Everything is fully charged, or was fully charged. However, I think Minion is playing around with stuff. What is it, Minion? What's been going on? You look funny with your mouth open like that. First thing we did after getting fully charged was to plug a meter in just so we can verify everything. Let me turn on the inverters. And because I have the connection cable tied together, which is making sure that everything is synced up between the two, turning the inverter on in here also turns it on that one as well. And we'll get to that in a second. But first, I like to make sure, it also lets me know right here that I've got 2 hours and 37 minutes that I could run this heat gun, which is more than you'd ever run a heat gun. I'd hate to think how hot this thing would get at that time frame. And in just a second, I'm going to use it to make some coffee. But to me, one of the biggest highlights of this product is the fact that I can plug this into a 30 amp outlet here, this one over here. Make sure that you have that data connection cable so that it knows to sync up and make it an actual split phase power so that you truly get 240 volts out of this box. And to verify that, of course, I just like my gadgets. On this combiner box, we've got two 30 amp outlets at 120 volts, which is really just an extension off of each of these. But the biggest thing is we have 240 volt 30 amp outlet. We have two of those as well. And indeed, we are reading 245 volts. Everything tests out to work how the manufacturer says it does. I do want to make sure that You guys know there are Cat-L cells inside these. These are lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're much safer than lithium ion, especially in such quantities like this, used for home backup. And then if you had a power failure, you could switch over to utilizing these to power the entire house. However, based on the capacity, even though they are really large, depending on your household use, you might want to just turn on select circuits that only are very important and not ones that are running your TV and all kinds of non-essential things. All right, Minion says enough talk. It's time for the coffee. You guys might not realize it, but coffee makers are actually a high-draw appliance, particularly when they fire up the thing that makes the heat, because heat takes a lot of power. Pulling 1500 watts, and just for fun, let's just turn on a heat gun. Give me lots of draw. There we go. 2500 watts. Before we make the coffee, we're gonna make sure that it meets Lord Minion's approval. Turns out he only likes lattes after they're made. We're using Minion's Sweet Blend 2.0. Now we're gonna pull a double shot of espresso. Kind of wish I had a dryer or some other real high draw 220 device to plug in, but because I live off grid, I just don't own many things like that. However, I can plug in multiple high draw devices to make sure that the power stations work as they're supposed to. Still got good voltage, still hanging out at 98% battery, so we could make many cups of coffee. There's our espresso. Now we'll turn on the steam wand and steam some milk. And yes, you should do it in a pitcher and not a cup. However, I'm using what I got up here in the garage. Depending on your thought process, making coffee might not be an essential thing to you guys, but it's very essential to me, so I consider this a really good demonstration of essential backup. Should my power fail, I could still get a very fancy cup of coffee right off of MangoPower. Turns out you can't make very good latte art with pouring from one mug to the next, but Minion is very excited about this part because I made a mess. Thank you, Minion. Appreciate your help. All right, guys, I checked out the MangoPower stations. They do seem to do what it is the manufacturer says, which is extremely important. Look at him loving coffee foam, but waiting every time I give him some instead of just helping himself. What a good boy. Again, these power stations are 3500 watts, and I have to say probably my favorite feature about them, even though I talked about the app, I didn't show it, is just the fact that you don't need the app to go through and change all this stuff, because we all have way too many apps on our phone already, and sometimes it's just nice just to actually access everything. The backup battery capacity, can adjust that here. The max AC input current, which can be really handy depending on how much power you want to pull from your home in order to back this up. I was using that myself because it wasn't that sunny and I didn't want to charge 2 of these at max capacity the entire time. So I just was able to turn that down to the setting I needed. If you need to charge it rapidly, there's simply a quick charge, which will not work when it's discharging and obviously not plugged into the wall. But there's a quick charge setting, which is really cool. Because this was a brand of power station I had not heard of before, I made sure to put it through extra paces just to make sure everything seemed to work as it was designed. The biggest question is, what did Minion take away from all this? Well, he does want to let you know there are links to this power station down below where you can learn more and purchase for yourself if interested. And Minion seems to think the coffee was delicious, and he has no idea I'm trying to help him get it off of his bottom lip. Hey, I'm trying to help. Here. Oh, that's good. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and if you have any comments about home backup power, if you're familiar with MangoPower at all, or know about Cat-L cells, I would love to hear from you guys in the comments.
With the beard and the vision, he narrates his life. Cutting firewood, draining beasts away from city strife. The ducks they roam freely, a quiet army true. Muscovies in the meadow, foraging in the dew. Lord Minion, small but grand, he's the kingdom's pride. Choosing of the odds with dying at my side. But when it's time to collect, it's not the snake is looking for.